All right, partygoers, welcome back to another fantastic episode of Zero Dark Nerdy, the galaxy's most mediocre pop culture podcast, brought to you by Pro Cover Exteriors for all your roofing, siding, and window needs. Golden Ticket Cinemas, Yes Weekly for all your local events, news, and notes. And of course, our good friends over at Sailfish Comics. Three fantastic locations, one in Concord, one in Winston-Salem, and one right here in Greensboro, right
hmm
across from Best Buy. Today, we have my good friend Austin Sellers in the building from Sailfish Comics. Austin, how you doing today?
Doing great, man. It's good to be off work, talking about comics and nerd stuff. We're here.
Hey, glad to have you on. I appreciate you. We've scheduled this and rescheduled this so many times, and a lot of it
Uh-huh.
is based on me. So I appreciate you being able to accommodate the schedule. So we're going to be talking about just kind of like a 2024 recap on some of our favorite comic books and
hmm
what we're looking forward to in 2025. But before we get into that, Austin, I want to, let the fans know, how did you get into comic books and like what are some of your favorites?
So the way that I've gotten into comics is a little bit weird. Um, my dad and I used to go to the comic shop every Wednesday. He would get Green Lantern, and I would get Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic Universe comics.
Okay.
And it was that way for a while until like high school. I kind of grew out of it. Um, And in college, when I got the job at Sailfish in my sophomore year, it took like about a year and a half for me to like get into comics in a way where I'd be like, yeah, I am into comics and not just like I read what's hot for the week to be able to like, talk to customers about like, yeah, Batman was cool this week. Like, yeah, it was. But yeah, started on Sonic and I'm definitely a DC guy now. Um,
Okay.
weirdly, because like I said, Dad and I grew up going to a comic shop every Wednesday, and we were more like we would go see the Marvel movies when they came
Sure.
out. Like that was huge for me. Um, but DC is the way to go comics wise.
It always seems like DC produces better comics, and on top of that, too, the animated films are just mind
Yeah,
blowing.
DC's
Mind
doing
blowing.
really good right now.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
doing
they're
great.
crushing it. So, yeah, I think that's a good segue to my next question here. How do you
Mm.
feel about? And I'm glad that James Gunn, as he's taken over, he's like, look, there's still these Elseworlds and things like that. But what was
Uh,
your kind of reaction to James Gunn being the head of the DC universe compared to Zack Snyder, and go from there?
so I just hope that they're good. That's all that I really my thing. So my favorite book of all time is All-Star Superman. And
Okay.
apparently Superman Legacy is based on that stuff.
Okay.
Um, and look, he got the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff right. The newer Suicide Squad is great. It's better
Yep.
than the first one.
Way
Um,
better.
way better. Um, I'm excited. I'm hopeful. He knows what he's doing. He's been knowing what he's been doing for a while, so I don't
Yeah.
think that he'll stop anytime soon. I think it'll be good. I did hear about the Elseworld stuff, so the Batman stuff.
Mhm.
I don't know if this was just like I'm on the side of Twitter where just nothing's like true or what have you, which might be all of Twitter, but I had
I feel
saw
like that's
that,
all social media at this point.
yeah, I had seen that the Batman was no longer in talks to just be an Elseworlds thing, and they were going to bring it to the main stuff. Or so I don't know what's exactly is going on, but
Right.
like the James Gunn stuff is cool, but I'm way more interested in the Batman and Penguin stuff because that stuff with Penguin was great. I saw that you
Oh,
guys did an episode of that, and I'm sure it was just 30 minutes of talking about how great it was.
it
Uh,
was, yeah. And we're not here to like trash on shows. Don't
no,
get me
yeah, sure.
wrong. We like to give our honest opinion. And yeah, it was absolutely amazing. And to your point, I love the Elseworld stuff, plain and simple.
Yeah,
So, and I mean, I think at this point, it's also one of those things to where when they did the first granted Justice League, they were trying to catch up to Marvel.
yeah, for sure. It definitely felt
And
like. oh crap, they're doing it really good. We need to
Yep.
do it now instead
Yep.
of, build like Marvel had been doing for 10 years. It's like, no, we're there. Let's just jump into
Yes.
endgame territory for DC, which,
Exactly. It was just a weird situation. And,
yeah.
unfortunately, Zack Snyder's daughter passed away, so he had to step away from it. So we had two different directors, and we got the Snyder cut
Mhm.
on HBO Max a couple years later, I think like 2 years later. And I really did
Yeah.
enjoy that, especially more of the Martian Manhunter aspect of it.
Yes, totally. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I'm interested to see what happens because to me, I really feel like the trailers for the movies are fantastic. I just feel
Yeah.
like they always lack a little bit more in the villains.
Mm, yeah. I feel like that's a thing with a lot of superhero on screen media that I see
Right.
is like, you got the heroes, like, oh, everybody's here. And then you got the villains. It's like, oh, great, we have this one villain. But he's really just kind of here for the next hour and,
Right.
well,
He's a
not
buffer.
hour, 3 hours, because that's how long superhero movies are now, like at minimum, for whatever reason. But yeah, usually the villain characters are kind of afterthoughts, or at least they feel like afterthoughts usually, except for like Thanos and like a handful of other stuff. But yeah, James Gunn in the Marvel stuff that I've seen has been good at doing villains and building them up and like giving them a lot more character than just like here's your bad guy for the next 2 hours. We're not rooting for him.
Right.
Um, but no, James Gunn's good at doing that stuff. Like I said,
That
all the
that's
stuff that I've
that's why
seen
I
him
have
do.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's why I have a little bit of hope with that too, because I mean he took a property like, let's be honest here. There's not a lot of comic book fans that are like, oh, Guardians of the Galaxy is the shit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He has a really great way of Guardians of the Galaxy, as well as, like you mentioned, redoing the Suicide Squad
Hmm.
and doing it in a way where it was still like very enjoyable. And a lot of people
Yeah.
were like, ah, well, the Starro thing. I was like, well, you don't understand. Like Starro was like one of the original villains
Yeah, yeah.
against the Justice League.
Yeah.
So, don't worry about that as much. Just like enjoy the fact that he can bring in characters that aren't so well known
Yeah.
and just do a phenomenal job with them and do a great job with the story.
He's really good at making sort of very ridiculous and like, oh, you're gonna do that sort of move in the film and like make it cool and like a lot of fun and easy for people that don't know that stuff to absorb, usually, and to run with. Yeah, yeah. The Starro having that in that movie was just like another like, oh, this is just gonna keep getting cooler, and we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good at doing cool stuff.
Yeah.
That, yeah.
Exactly. And especially with very like I don't want to say well known, but like unknown
Hmm.
characters and then obviously bringing their stock up.
Hmm.
So how did it come about, Austin, that you got a job at Sailfish?
Um, so I was very lucky to sort of have known those guys for a long time. My dad was friends with Stephen and Jay
Okay.
for a long time, so it was a matter of being like, "Hey, Stephen, I need a job because I'm in college and need to eat and live and all that afterwards."
Gotta get
Uh,
those ramen noodles.
yeah, man, whole pantry full of them. Um, but yeah, they were kind enough to save me a spot on the team, and I've been there for. It's been like 3.5 years and some change, I think now. It's been a good
Okay.
ride. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Well,
Yeah.
I always enjoy seeing you up there, and I'm very glad to have you on. So, in terms of 2024, what have been some of your highlights for this year in terms of the comic book realm?
All
And
right.
even we can also talk about TV shows and movies too, but
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
let's talk about the comic books for right now.
Yeah. It's been a good year for comics. I want to say, like I said earlier, DC's doing it, and I think they're doing it the best. A little bit of bias there because I am a DC guy, but Marvel hasn't done a lot for me in a while, but I will say Ultimate Spider-Man has been huge
Yeah.
for a lot of people. A lot of the Ultimate stuff has been really cool. A lot of people like Ultimate Black Panther. Ultimate X-Men isn't for everybody, but it's got its people. And then just the Ultimates line and run has been good. Um, Ultimate Wolverine coming next year. I'm super in for. He's so it's Wolverine, but he's the Winter Soldier. Um, and
Really?
I don't know fully what the deal is. I
Yeah.
understand. I think I understand that to be the thing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the ultimate stuff that Marvel's been doing has been keeping me on Marvel. But yeah, it's DC for me, man. DC's
Yeah.
been real great. The I mean, the number one selling book of the year, Absolute Batman, which
Yep.
came out a couple months ago.
Yep.
Uh, I mean, just the absolute stuff is so exciting, man. Absolute
Yep.
Batman's really good. Issue 3, I want to say that's next week.
Mhm.
Um, so, you know, go ahead and grab 1 and 2 if you still can. If the stores around you still have them in stock. Um, and then yeah, issue 3. Absolute Wonder Woman also has been really great.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
I've really enjoyed both of those titles. Absolute Superman is good,
Mhm.
not for me, not my jam, but a lot of people seem to be big on it too. I mean, a lot of people are just coming and being like, "I heard about the Absolute stuff. Where is do you have it?" Most of the time
Right.
we're like, "No," because we're sold out.
Yeah.
But, on the off chance we get like, that 16th printing because we ordered so many times, it's like, yeah, we've got one of those left. But yeah, Absolute stuff has been great. Along with that, they did an all-in special, which sort of kicked off the next like sort of era for DC. If you
Yeah.
see a book with the all-in title,
Yes.
uh, it's like I guess like the next like New 52 or whatever DC's new stuff headline. That's what's going on, and because of that, I've been picking up a lot of books. That have when they started the new wave of stuff, there was like all the new books would have like covers. They were just basically white backdrops and a character. And if you got one of those, you're basically just jumping on. It's a good jumping on point for the titles, whether that be like number one or in the middle of the run. Like it's a good place to start. So I started a bunch of stuff like Action Comics. I'm finally reading that, which has been great. Superman has been great as well. The new Detective Comics run has been good. Um, Batman, Chip Zdarsky's run's been, I think, going on for well over 30 issues now, and it's finally coming to an end. But um, Batman's been great as well. That's actually what got me sort of back into reading comics working at Sailfish. But um, don't want to backtrack too much there. But yeah, all the DC stuff has been good. Absolute all in for the most part. It's pretty solid. Other than Marvel DC talk, my favorite book of the year, and I think probably for a lot of people, it's Transformers, man.
Yeah.
It's the best. It's the best. It's the
Yeah.
best thing on the shelves. Daniel Warren Johnson is way too good. We don't deserve him. Um, and Jorge Corona picking up art at issue 7 through 12, and I think he's coming back for 15. He's great too. That was sort of my first in on seeing his work. And it's great. But yeah, man, Transformers is just way too damn good. Um, so if you're not reading anything from this year, go. I'm sure whatever comic book shop will have 14 trades of, one
Yeah.
through six. Check it out. Every time somebody's been like, oh, what, I've been out of the game for a while. What can I
Yeah.
read? I'm like, Transformers. And they come back and they're like, do you have the rest of Transformers? And we're like, yeah, of course we do. Everybody loves Transformers. But yeah, that's my book of the year. If we're doing
Okay.
MVP thing, it's Transformers, and
Okay.
it probably will stay Transformers.
Now, let me ask you, where does Void Rivals pick up in that Transformers universe? Because I know it's like a
Yeah,
crossover between
yeah,
that and G.I. Joe, right?
yeah. So the Energon universe
Yeah.
is, like you said, it's a collection of Transformers titles. Earlier
Yeah.
this year, there were a bunch of not G.I. Joe titles, but it was G.I. Joe characters that were building
Right.
to the eventual G.I. Joe book. But yeah, so you've got Transformers, G.I. Joe, and then Void Rivals was the first book of the Energon universe. And it's about these two characters from two separate worlds that are basically, you know, one really doesn't like the other and vice versa. And these two characters get stranded together, and you sort of see them working together and trying to um, resolve the conflicts in the book. But you start to see they start like cutting um, to different characters that they sort of loosely interact with, and you're like, that's the character from, wait, that's the guy from that one thing, and you see,
Right.
I think in like issue one or two of Void Rivals, you see Jetfire on a random planet, and they're like, "Oh my God, what's this thing?" And it transforms, and he's like, "Oh God, I gotta get out. I gotta go find the rest of the Transformers," basically. But Void Rivals is sort of like the center, it feels like the core of the Energon thing, and everything else works around it, and eventually it's going to come to a head. I think in 2025 we're probably going to see like the first probably Energon universe, big deal thing crossover. Um,
Okay.
that's not, I don't know that for sure, but it feels
Right.
like
Right.
we're
It feels like
getting there.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the direction we're going in.
Yeah, but yeah, the Energon universe has all been very solid. I know that Sailfish, we've got all the trades for it if you need it. Um, I would, Transformers is the best, that's my opinion. But like Void Rivals has been really solid too. Not a big G.I. Joe guy, but a lot of the um individual character titles were really solid. And I have yet to actually read the G.I. Joe book. I'm behind on a lot of stuff. But yeah, I'm excited to check all that stuff out.
Well, there was one that you put me onto, and I believe we're now in episode comic book 3. The moon is following us.
Oh my God, man.
Holy shit, that thing is
And we're back to talking
fantastic.
about Daniel Warren Johnson, dude. He's incredible. What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, him and Riley Rossimo, who I wasn't very familiar with some of his stuff,
Mhm.
but the way that they do the book is really cool. So it's about these parents that are trying to save their daughter, who is seemingly trapped in like a dream world in her head,
Right.
and
Yes.
they um
They have to go out and like recruit other people in this
yeah,
dream
they're like
world.
recruiting her like imaginary characters in the
Yeah.
dream world to like fight against something to save her.
Yeah.
Um, but how they do the art, Daniel Warren Johnson draws them in real life, and struggling with, the situation outside of the dream world. And
Right.
Rossimo is doing all the dream world illustrations, and I think that is really smart because he's it's more like fantastical,
Yeah.
if you will. Yeah, it's really good. Daniel's really good at writing like very, it looks like a lot of fun on the cover, and it is,
Yeah.
but I'm crying in the middle of this issue sort of books. Like, um, I don't know if you've ever read Do a Power Bomb by him, but like,
No,
man,
not yet. But I the power
you're just
bomb
in
shit is
tears at the end of
awesome.
that book. But the whole rest of the book is like cool wrestling stuff, and you're
Wow, I didn't know it was like
yeah,
that. Okay.
it's wild, man. It's yeah, there's a lot of heart in his books, and I think that's also why like Transformers has been so great because there's just this unexpected like, oh my God, this is like I'm feeling this
Heart
in my
snaps.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, Moon is Following Us has been really good. I've picked up all the freaking variant covers. I need to stop, but I'm not gonna stop. It's
No, you
yeah,
can't stop. And
you
that's
can't
why
stop.
I'm so glad that, not just having you on for this episode, something that I was telling you
Hmm.
about when we first connected is that I want to do a monthly thing on variant covers because I just love variant covers, period.
Yeah, yeah.
But especially when they're based on just like movies or album covers or stuff like that.
Hmm.
But there's
Yeah,
just so much great content out there, and it's good for people to just know that. And especially
yeah,
because a
yeah,
lot of people are just, they're fans of covers, which I get it. That's
yeah,
how I was for the longest time. I'm like, look, oh, the cover's awesome. I want to get this,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I'll get into it. And if I don't, I don't. And if I do, I do. But I will say, the moon is following us. That was one that you recommended, and I loved it. And there was one that was a big surprise to me this year. Was I want to make sure I'm saying this correctly. One
Shoot.
eyed Popeye.
One-eyed Popeye.
Yeah. So it's based on Popeye, the Sailor Man.
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure it's called One Eye Popeye, but it's like one it's like Popeye meets Dragon Ball Z. So like when he
So
eats spinach, it's fucking insane.
yeah.
So
I remember seeing that on shelves. That was one thing I didn't check out this year.
yeah.
But yeah, I heard a lot of people are having fun with that book. Yeah, yeah, Dragon Ball Z and Popeye is what I've heard, and
Hmm.
it's like, yeah, this is just
That's
Dragon.
exactly what it
It's
is. It's just
like
one of those things that,
Popeye
like,
manga.
if they were to bring it back into a cartoon, you couldn't do it like you could have back in. Obviously, I'm an '80s baby. I'm 44
Hmm.
years old, and
Hmm.
the Popeye cartoons that I was seeing was from the '40s, whatever it
Yeah,
was. But if you were to bring Popeye back, this would be the way to do it in that
yeah,
Dragon Ball Z style, like comic book. And
yeah,
I've enjoyed it. I think we're only about four like issues in.
yeah. I think it's
But
pretty early on in the run
yeah,
still.
it's super early on, but I gotta say, it's definitely been entertaining
Yeah,
and one of my surprises for this year, for sure.
yeah, yeah. One-eyed Popeye. Popeye meets Dragon Ball.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So, in terms of 2025, what are you looking forward to? And not just comic book wise, but
yeah.
also, TV, movies,
Hmm.
anything in general.
Um, we'll start out with comics. Something that has started this year, but is that it's issue 2 we're getting in December. Justice League Unlimited. Mark Waid and oh gosh, Dan Mora on that, and it's been really good. It was a good first issue. They do the World's Finest series, Batman, Superman, if anybody knows that. That's just one of the most fun books to read out now. Dan Moore's not doing art on it right now, but he did, I think, the first couple of volumes. But it's a really good duo, and I'm really excited to see what they do with a bigger cast of characters. And I hope we get to see like some cool Justice League characters that don't really interact sort of
Right.
come together and have to do something together. But yeah, that's a big one for me. That was one of the things I was most excited about this year was that number one. More of the absolute stuff, just Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman. There's also so in 2025 we're getting Absolute Flash, Green Lantern, and the one that I'm most excited about is Martian Manhunter. I don't know if you've
Wow.
seen have you seen any of the art for the Martian Manhunter
I
stuff?
have not. No.
It looks insane. They have like Martian Manhunter looks like some sort of Ben 10 like transformation thing. It's really odd. It's Javier Rodriguez who did a really good 5 issues of Tandem miniseries this year.
Okay.
And I'm sort of just a sucker for his art. I'm a
Yeah.
big art dude. That's if
Yeah.
you're picking it up. Yeah, it's like if this looks cool, I'm gonna check it out most
Yeah.
likely. But yeah, it looks really weird and like a really cool, like I want to know what the heck's going on with that way. Um, but yeah, the absolute stuff is definitely something to look out for next year. Along with more Ultimate Marvel stuff, I think they announced another title other than Wolverine, but I'm definitely most excited about the Wolverine. Um, let's see, what else are they doing? More of the Energon title stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll be big next year. They're doing um so I mentioned earlier Chip Zdarsky's Batman run is gonna end soon. I think it's gonna end like issue 159. After that, they're gonna be doing Batman Hush 2.
Oh,
Which
wow.
yeah, Hush is a lot of people's that's their one.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm excited to
Thought I
check
had
that
it behind me. That's why I look behind me, but
out.
it's not. It's in my bedroom. The original Hush.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, Hush 2, I'm sure that'll be big next year. Marvel's doing a Doom event, which I'm sure I'll give it a shot. But most of the time, the Marvel events, that's not for me. It's for other people. That's fine. But Doom is a cool character, and that's a big point for me to be like, yeah, I'll give it a
Yeah.
shot. But yeah, other than that, um, nothing too much I can think of. Still gonna check out Moon is following us. Some I
Do you
tried it.
know how long that's supposed to run as far as the comic book? The moon is following us.
I know that it's going to run for at least 12. I don't know if that's a
Okay.
stopping point, but
Okay.
um I think you can see up to a certain point on like order sheets that you're getting at least 12.
Gotcha.
Um but yeah, yeah, that'll be at least 12 issues. Yeah, comic wise, nothing much more I can think of off the top of my head. Big stuff for next year. Show wise, um Invincible season 3. That's
Nice.
probably, nerd related stuff. It's Invincible
Yeah.
season 3, which I think is February 6th. So we're
Yeah.
almost there. And there's no mid-season break, so we're just one season for,
Thank God.
yeah, no, like, 8 month or however long it was season break between 4 episodes and four more. But yeah. I mean it's fantastic. So I don't
Yeah.
mind because it's gonna be great. But yeah. Invincible. Oh, what else is coming out next year? Um,
I think we have the final season of The Boys coming out next year.
oh, 5 is the final.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, dang.
so here's the rumor mill.
Uh-huh.
They're gonna do a final season, and then apparently they might, quote unquote, might, kind of like Peaky Blinders, even though it's many many years later, where Peaky Blinders wrapped up on Netflix, and now they're coming
Hmm.
out with a movie to like wrap things up.
Oh, they're doing. Oh, cool.
But with The Boys, they're talking about wrapping it up. They already said that this is the final season, but they want to possibly do a movie after
Interesting.
to wrap it,
Okay.
like wrap it up. But they did say that
Hmm.
this next season will be the final season as far as Amazon Prime. And
Okay.
just in general, not like they're going to switch to another network. Like
Yeah,
this,
yeah, yeah. Um, okay. I I thought that there was going to be, oh gosh, I'm blanking on it. What was it? There was a show that they did after season 3, before season 4. It was at
oh,
the
Gen V.
university. Gen V, yeah, yeah. I was under the impression that there was going to be a second season of that, or it was going
So
to weave its
there
way into season
was,
5.
and then unfortunately, I cannot remember his character's name, but
Oh
one,
my God, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
he
Oh
passed away
man.
this year in a motorcycle accident.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and they included a couple characters in the final episode
Hmm.
of the latest season to kind
Yeah.
of bring it all in. But yeah, I think they went ahead and just kind of scrapped Gen V because
Yeah.
out of
Dang. Yeah.
respect and many other
Yeah.
things.
Understandable for sure. Um, there was also talks of a prequel show with Soldier Boy
Hmm.
and Stormfront, but her like original name, when she was
Yes.
still that character. There were talks of that. I don't know if that'll be,
Yeah.
The Boys
I'd be
ending at
interested in
season
seeing that.
5, but yeah, yeah, I'd be down for that
Yeah.
too. Because I forget his name, but guy who plays Soldier Boy. I mean, I could watch that character for hours. It's
Oh,
hilarious.
yeah, and he's in Supernatural. I never.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Jensen
Jensen
Ackles.
Ackles, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
he's great. I never watched. Well, I don't want to say I never watched Supernatural. My wife is a gigantic Supernatural
Yeah.
fan. I've tried to get into it, but it's like 20 seasons, 20 episodes a season. It's a lot.
It's hard to just jump into
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Anything over like
And I love Jeffrey Dean
5, 6
Morgan.
seasons. Yeah.
So, it's just one of those things where I love Jensen Ackles, like especially his first kind of debut thing on
Hmm.
this show when he was Stewie or whatever his character's name, when he was like, oh, we're talking about Wi-Fi and like cell phones and stuff like that, and he's
Hmm.
just sitting there eating a burger. He was like, you're lying, you're making all this
Yeah.
stuff up. Like Jensen Ackles was great as
Yeah.
Soldier Boy, and his weird obsession with banging grandmas was weird, but
Yeah.
The Boys
Yeah.
is
That
a
was the
weird
full
show,
obsession.
plain and simple.
Yeah.
So they
If
definitely
if you
touched.
know about the boys, you know about how
Yeah.
freaky it gets.
Yes.
And even then you still don't know how really crazy it gets until you watch it.
And that's the thing. I'm really
Yeah.
glad you brought that up because I tell people all the time, I'm like, you may think the show is freaky, like the comic books is a whole other level.
And what's crazy is if you've seen the show, you know
Yeah.
it's insane. But the books like dial it up to
Yeah.
and it's too much. I can't do the book, but
Yeah.
the show's fun. The book just
Yeah.
sort of takes
And
turns where it's
everybody
like
thinks the show is hardcore. I'm like,
morally this is a little wild, but yeah, yeah.
100%. So before we wrap up here, and again, this has been a phenomenal episode. I can't wait to keep bringing you on, especially when we talk more about variant covers.
Hmm.
And speaking of variant covers, right now they're in the talks. They already have like a script for something that's killing the children on Netflix. Hopefully
Oh,
they do it
really?
right. Yep.
Whoa,
Yep.
they have a
First,
script? Oh,
yeah,
shoot.
first script's out there. So
Oh,
Netflix has first dibs on everything by Boom Comics.
studio. Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, I've been telling everybody else, like, if they do this right, like this is going to be the next The Walking Dead on TV.
Yeah,
If they
yeah.
mess it up, it's going to be a one and done thing.
Yeah.
So it's either going to be like fantastic or it's going to be terrible. So yeah, the script's in. They still have not announced the cast yet.
Mm.
So, it's not going to be 2025 unless they start like announcing people quickly and get this
Like
out of the
next
way.
week. Yeah, yeah.
Because here's the thing, next year we finally get the ending, and I mean we're talking 14 years later on Stranger Things. These guys should be in medical
It's
school
been
by now.
14 years?
Yeah. Well, not 14. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. We're at least 10 years. We're at least
Yeah,
10
yeah, yeah.
years.
10
Yeah.
years. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So we're at least
Makes
10
me feel
years.
a little
So,
bit better. I remember that
yeah.
coming in. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa,
I
whoa,
was
whoa.
thinking I was thinking more Walking Dead because I remember Walking Dead coming
Yeah,
out right around that 2010 area. And
yeah,
Stranger Things was like 2014, 2015.
yeah. So yeah,
So,
about 10 years. Yeah.
yeah. So
We
about
we
10
could round it
years.
to 10 years. Let's
Yeah.
say 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So, 10 years. And I mean, granted, yeah, everybody on the show should be in medical school by now or at least have their own jobs.
Yeah.
And granted, they also look young, and we can't wait
Hmm.
for to see what happens.
Yeah.
But so that's what I'm looking forward to next year. Definitely
Yeah.
Stranger
Stranger Things.
Things, seeing how they wrap it up. Thunderbolts, definitely super excited about that. This
Yeah.
is MCU's chance to do a Suicide Squad thing
Yeah.
without James Gunn.
Yeah.
And oh gosh,
Brave
what
New World.
else?
Captain America.
Brave New World. I'm
Looks good.
definitely into.
Yeah.
Good to see. I grew up on Harrison Ford, and I know he
Yeah.
doesn't have. He's getting ready to be in that retirement mode. But
Uh-huh.
I'm interested to see him. Play the Red Hulk. I am.
Yeah. It'll be
I
interesting.
did notice in the trailer that they try to play off the. Because unfortunately, the original actor that played Captain Thunderbolt
Hmm.
passed away, James
Right.
Ernst. But
Yes. Yeah.
he was
That's
like,
right.
"Oh, I had to shave the mustache for the election." I was like,
Uh-huh.
come on, like we can come up with something better than that.
Yeah.
But anyways, love Harrison Ford. I'd like to see where it goes. The Falcon slash Winter Soldier has never been one of my favorite characters in the MCU, if I'm being
Hmm.
honest.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I think it's going to tie into Thunderbolts, which I
It
would hope for.
definitely, yeah, it
Should.
definitely could. The Thunderbolts and that isn't too far away from each
No,
other. Somebody,
especially because of the Bucky and Captain America slash Falcon
right.
relationship. But comic book wise, and I did want to ask you about this too.
Shoot.
So before we get into it, what do you think about the new Batman logo on the Absolute Batman?
For for Absolute Batman.
Yeah,
So initially I was like, it sort of it initially sort of throws you until you
yeah,
know why it looks like that.
right.
It's just a giant like fat sort of rectangle with
Yep.
like points on it to show you, that it's still a Batman. It's the bat symbol, but it's like a retractable axe that
Mhm.
he like. And initially I was like, oh, it looks sort of weird, but then he takes it off and cuts that guy's hand off. I'm like, it's kind of cool
Yeah,
actually. I do
yeah,
kind of dig that. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's clever. It's sort of like how they do it in the Pattinson Batman, where I think the bat symbol on his chest, it's not like a functioning weapon, but it's like
right,
I think it's the gun that his parents were killed with, and he like sort of reshaped it into like the bat symbol.
right.
Uh, so it's similar, I guess, in that vein. But yeah, I dig it. I dig it. Yeah.
Yeah, at first, when I first saw it, I was like, oh man, this is just lazy. And
Yeah.
then when you see it, it's like this makes sense.
Yeah.
This makes sense. So, excellent, Austin. Before we wrap up, like, let people know, in terms of, because you obviously do a lot more than just working at Selfish Comics.
Right.
You talked about, like, your graphic design, things like that, some of your projects. Let people know where they can find you, where they can just hit
Mm.
you up for, whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to get the domain name austinsellers.com. So I have a website that's full of my video work, graphic design, fine art. My Instagram is Austin Sellers. The E in Sellers is a three. Should be pretty easy to find. Um, yeah, it's really just there. I'm not on like Facebook or anything else really. It's just Instagram and the website. So, check me out if you are looking for video work, graphic design, any of that. I'm your guy. But
Yeah, there you
yeah,
go.
also if you need comics, Sailfish Greensboro or the other or oh, hold on. Having a stroke. Or our other two locations in Winston and Concord. Should have everything you need and more. So, yeah.
That's right. That's right. Hang out with us for just a little bit, Austin. Don't forget, be sure to check out, just like he mentioned, Sailfish Comics. Three amazing locations here in the Carolinas, one in Winston, one in Concord, the one right here in Greensboro, right across from Best Buy. Of course, our good friends over at Yes Weekly, Believe Podcast Network, and of course, Pro Cover Exteriors for all your roofing, siding, and window needs. This is your boy Brian from Zero Dark Nerdy, and we'll see you next time. Peace.